You're locked into the only podcast for Maine high school basketball. The biggest names, past and present. It's Big Time Hoops, the podcast, right now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another round of Big Time Hoops, the podcast. And our guest tonight, you might not recognize his name, but you're going to recognize who he is. Yeah, we got Matt McCluskey, but you guys might know him as TrophyMode. This guy's putting out the hottest mixtapes going right now, the hottest stuff on the street right now. And coming off a busy weekend, I was just talking to him before we started recording. We're recording this the night of the top 30 camp for the girls rapping. So that's where you were at this weekend, right? Just putting in work at the top 30 camp, right?
Yep, 6 hours a day. Ben Tier puts on the top 30, Maine top 30 camp for girls this weekend. Last year it was a one-day event. This year it's a 2-day event because 9 hours in a day was long last year. So he just tried to make it good for the athletes. Once they get to the games, they were a little tired last year. So this year he shortened it up, had it over 2 days. And I think that it, went a little bit smoother as far as the girls still having legs to compete throughout the day, which is really what a lot of them want to do at the end of the day is, the drills and the learning is fun, but they also want to go at each other. So
yeah, it looked like they did. And the footage I saw, just little clips here and there, like they were going at it. And it's kind of like what we were saying too. It's just cool to see like probably the 60 best girls in the state all under one roof, all going at it, all competing. Having been there last year, what's the biggest difference you noticed from year one to year two with the top 30 camp?
Just this year, obviously with COVID, everybody was available. Last year, with the Firecrackers traveling a lot of the top girls weren't available, or they'd just been busy all summer. So it was just people wanted a break, or just were busy. And this year, unfortunately with the situation, it made it a fortunate thing for the camp where everybody had been sitting around waiting to play basketball. And this was one of their first chances for some of them to compete. So, it was just having the top talent. Ben also got to look at last year's group and make changes with that group. And just, having a shooting instructor this year instead of a ball handling instructor was a little bit different. But I think breaking it up and making it 2 6-hour sessions instead of a 9-hour session was a great change. And you definitely saw, a bigger energy boost throughout the day given that change that he made. So.
Absolutely. So I'm going to come back around to it at the end here. I want to start talking towards the end, just how you being around all these players, getting to see them play, get your insight on maybe who's under the radar right now, who stepped up this weekend. So we'll come back around to it. But I want to go back and tell your story. So we all know you as TrophyMode. Whoever follows you on social media, like I said, just putting out just really, really dope mixtapes of kids in Maine. But I'm curious, how did Matt McCluskey get to TrophyMode? So let's go back to the beginning. So I know because you told me, but for the folks that don't know, what's your backstory? Where are you from?
Born in Holton, Maine, way up in the county like yourself. Went to Southern Aroostook High School, K-12 school, under one roof in Dyer Brook, Maine. Grew up right next to I-95 in Smyrna. Played basketball from 4th grade going forward. Made the tournament all 4 years in high school with Southern Aroostook, and Eastern Maine Finals was the furthest we went in '99. We had a great group, team that had 3,000-point scores on it. And, so that's kind of like the high school background. I went to University of Maine at Farmington for my teaching degree after my time at Southern Aroostook, and, then came back north to do some basketball stuff after Farmington.
So Southern Aroostook, Class D hoops, and up in the county, pretty much Bangor North. Like Class D hoops is competitive, right? I mean, we got a ton of schools.
Yeah.
I think we almost got too many schools. I think at one point there was like 24 teams in Class D North or whatever, Class D South, or sorry, Class D East back in the day, Class D North now. But what are Class D hoops like for those that aren't familiar? I mean, especially the time you're going through, some really, really good teams. And it's all based up there in the county. I mean, you guys, it's kind of like the good teams in Class A and Class AA all being in Portland and going head-to-head. Class D hoops, you all go head-to-head in the county. So what's that Class D hoop scene like up there for those that might not be familiar with it?
I mean, back then, like literally when I was in high school was probably the prime time for Class D in its history. You had the Valley teams winning six gold balls in a row. My senior year, East Grand had James Godley and Darius Parker.
I'm so glad you said Darius Parker because I wanted to bring up Parker. I played with him in college, but go ahead. We'll come back to Parker.
Two unbelievable scorers. Godley went on. You said Parker played at Fort Kent.
Yeah.
Godley had a great career at Thomas and you know, was still torching people in men's leagues for long after that. Bangor Christian was loaded and they had the older Bradford kid, Brock Bradford's brother, Pat McCleary, who was 6'5" and really athletic. They had a kid that in our gym that year came from Jamaica, I believe, and one step over the foul line and dunked it like in Class D. Didn't even tie his sneakers. He was just such an athlete.
Yeah.
There were just so many good teams back then. The Katahdin teams.
Great program at Katahdin.
Under Billy McAvoy at that point, who went on to just recently go to 3 Northern Maine championships with Southern Rustic. Just so many good teams. And I think, you know, just with the restructuring, it's kind of got a little bit watered down. And just with how Maine is moving as far as our population, a lot of those small towns have been hit pretty hard, the mill towns and stuff. So, and basketball is, like most sports, I think, is becoming a sport for those who have a little bit more access to funding or programs in AAU. So I think it's taken a little bit of a toll on Class D, but I see some positive signs. I still see some positive signs. So yeah.
So glad you said Darius Parker. That's my guy, and just one of those guys where you look at him, you're like, this like Darius Parker, okay, and then just go out there and just fundamentally sound, get buckets. But like those East Grand teams, like you said, it was a great time for Class D basketball. Just so many good teams.
Got up and down, you know.
Wow. Yeah, for those that maybe from Southern Maine are not familiar with the Class D environment, so like you go around and you get to take footage of you know, people all over the state. You know, you do some of the bigger schools down there. What's the biggest difference from like a Class A environment, a Class AA environment in Southern Maine to packed house at a Class D game up in the county on a Friday night?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the community feel. I mean, I played it. I coached at Holton, so I've been to Fort Kent many times. And just, you know, that's the thing that's going on in town. You know, I live on Congress Street in Portland now, and it's not the only thing going on down here. And while there is community in some of the gyms here, you know, when I still go home a few times a year and get to go to a game, I'm still going to see the same faces that I saw 20 years ago. And that, you know, I don't think that that's as much the case down here. Just because people don't know every family. It's just a broader area with so many more people. So I think there is passion. Like you spoke to some of the Greeley kids, you spoke to the Gorham kids, you know, those outlier towns or suburban towns around Portland that have good basketball traditions. They definitely have fans. They definitely can be loud. And they may get as many fans just because of the size of the town and the size of the gyms. But it's a different feel, you know.
So I love being able to talk hoops with someone from the county because that's what I know. That's what I grew up on. So I'm just curious. There's got to be like some teams that were players you remember from back in the day. Because, I mean, I think that's where it all starts, being young, seeing these guys from the towns come through, going to the games, being like, oh, man, I can't wait to be that guy going to that town and playing in gyms and stuff like that. Do you remember, like, some guys growing up that you just remember seeing as a kid, like, oh, my God, like, I love basketball. I can't wait to get there myself.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, the 99 Holton team, when I was a freshman, that went 18-0, went on to lose to Camden Hills in the Eastern Maine Finals with Willie Sleeper, Frank DiStefano, Mike Weston, Jake Copperthwaite. Kyle Hipsley off the bench. That was really the first team that I fell in love with.
Yeah.
Ruben Thomas. They had several guys that could dunk. Willie was coming from Katahdin, where he was averaging about 30 a game through his first couple of years, and made All-State that year, even on a loaded Holton team. And they had just had Luke Ritchie, who was an All-State player. So I mean, that was really one of the first teams I fell in love with. But those Katahdin teams with Brandon McCarthy, Nick Cullen, the Robinson brothers, just so many, just fundamentally sound players on those teams. Central Rustic, my freshman year, and sophomore year they had Shane Bradstreet, Craig Allen. They could just shoot from anywhere, and that they were going to try to put up 100 on you every night. I mean, just so many good players back in that area. One of the guys that cuts hair down here, Chad Gervais.
That's my guy. That's my guy. That's one of my best friends right there.
I think his last high school game was against us in our gym in a prelim. He was such a talented athlete. I mean, the Presque teams, between Nick Castavant's teams to the teams that were later on with Greg Whitaker. They were a little bit after I was in high school, but I loved watching those teams. Greg Whitaker, Chris Coffin, McGlynn, and then the Holton teams after that. Mark Sucobe, one of my best friends. That his run to the state championship as a sophomore was one of the great times for me as a fan, having graduated high school, but still getting to go to all his games and follow him. So.
Still to this day, Sucobe is like the best player that I've actually been on the court with, like in a game in high school basketball, like during my entire 4 years. Like it wasn't even close. I
still compare every young kid that I see. Watching him play as a middle school, even a middle schooler, through his high school years, he's still the standard to me. If he hadn't had the ACL going into his senior year, I feel that he would have won Mr. Basketball at Bangor, and who I don't even know. Maybe he ends up at Maine again, but he had so many looks and offers from other schools, and we'll never know. But like as a middle schooler, and just his basketball IQ, and his skill level as a 6'5" guard was just unbelievable. So. And
just such a smoothness to his game. Like never felt like he was rushing. Just felt like he was going in slow motion at all times, and just unbelievable. And like we played him. His last year in Holton was a sophomore year. Like he was a sophomore, and it's still like the best player I've ever been on the court against. Like, and then that they were stacked. That was the year they won states. Was a sophomore year, I think, and just
I remember his freshman year. They were still in Class B his freshman year, and he went to Presque Isle, and Fred Bird and Kyle James were the two good guards.
Mm-hmm.
Presque Isle, and I remember Mark dropping 7 threes. And every three, he just backed up a little bit, and they were sending double teams, and they couldn't get the double team there fast enough because he just kept backing up, and he was so tall and lanky, he just shoot over the top. And Tim Prescott, their coach, was just going through himself, telling them that a freshman was doing this to them, but there was nothing like, and they were great players. Kyle was a good defender, Fred was a great player, but it was just those moments that are just a level above what you normally see from a player anywhere, let alone in the county.
Yeah. I remember I started hearing about him in 7th grade, and I was like, how good can this kid be? And then I found out very, very quick how good he was. So.
The first time I played against him, Jerry Adams, who was the coach at Holton that year, let him play at varsity as an 8th grader in the summer league. In the summer league, everybody in the county has their summer programs, and Mark was starting as an 8th grader for a very solid tournament level Holton team, and I was guarding him, and I was already friends with him at that time, but he was dropping threes right in my eye, laughing about it. So as an 8th grader, and I was a senior in high school, so
That state team was good. They we played them at the end of the year. That year they won states, and like we were on the outskirts trying to make a prelim. So like we were playing good towards the end of the year, and they came into town. We're gonna beat them and like move up in the standings. And then they had Leaf McConnell or Leaf O'Connell.
Yeah, O'Connell.
And they had 3 dunks to start off the game. It was like Sucobe and then Leaf had 2 dunks, and that was it. Like we lost by like 30 at home. That was it.
Hey, Fort Kent, I will give it to you guys. Fort Kent is a tough place to play, no matter how good your team is. There's never a guarantee that you're going to go in and even if you come out with a win, usually it's either not pretty or they take it to the wire. So
yeah, that's county basketball right there. We compete. We all compete. I'm glad we got the Mark Sucobe connection because I want to get Mark on really, really bad, and now I got that in, so we can make that happen. So.
Oh yeah.
So obviously you stay connected with basketball because you're still doing it now in some capacity. But I'm curious, what was it about your roots? What is it about your time from playing, from coaching, from being in the county? Like what is it that stuck with you that once you left, you still wanted to be part of it?
Honestly, when I first went home, I coached 2 years of middle school basketball at Southern Rustic, where I had gone to school. The AD there, Murray Putnam, gave me the opportunity to coach right away. Did really well, but took a job in the Holton school system. And Rob Moran had just got back into middle school coaching by his good friend Marty Bouchard, whose son Kyle was coming into 7th grade, and so Rob took a very talented 8th grade team and asked me to be his assistant coach there. And I jumped at the chance just to work with Rob because he's a great basketball mind, and I love him as a human being. So we coached middle school together for 2 years. Then Rob took the varsity position as Kyle entered high school, and I joined his staff at the high school level for 4 years. So I spent 6 years with Rob in the Holton school system, Holton coaching system, and I needed to go back to school to finish my teaching degree, and so I went back to Farmington in 2015 after Kyle graduated, and lived in Portland and commuted to Farmington to finish my degree, and worked in the Portland school system. And when I moved down here, I didn't want to get right back into coaching because when I coach, I put everything I have into it. I put all my time into it, and I just wasn't in a position to do that right as soon as I moved to Portland, and I didn't have the connections that I had in the county. So I was just looking for an avenue to be connected with basketball, to be in the gym, but not necessarily be committed to all that time that you have to put in when you're coaching. Like, to me, especially coaching at the varsity level, it's a year-round position.
Commitment right there.
Some people might not feel that way, but I think the best programs and the best coaches, they're always providing an opportunity or a pathway for their kids to get better. And I just didn't have that as soon as I moved to Portland. So the first night of the season, the high school season before this past one, I went to the Deering gym. They had a couple of good players, Ben Onek and Daryl Germain. And I just thought, I'll just bring my camera. I'll film it, cut up the highlights on iMovie or something, and put them on make an Instagram and put it up there and see what happens. And that was kind of just the start. It's just going to a gym and with my phone and cutting up some highlights because nobody was doing it.
Right.
And I'm a big fan of seeing the kids from all over the country watching other people's work, and the mixtapes that are a huge part of basketball culture now. And Maine kids didn't really have that. And also, like, I'm sure you felt like this in Fort Kent. You want to see all these kids from around the state when you're in the county that you're hearing about. You hear about this kid in Portland or Kennebunk or Augusta or whatever that's good, but like you don't like, and you might be able to catch a live stream once in a while, but you're busy. You know, like you're busy with your season or whatever you have going on, and it's tough to compare when you can't see the other kids. And I kind of wanted to give people an avenue to see just like what's out there, and just for kids to be able to watch each other and cheer each other on through the videos. You know,
So I just want to go back. I just want to go back to one thing real quick that you said about waiting until Kyle graduated before you decided to go back and get your finish up the school thing. Not a bad guy to kind of hang around and kind of attach your wagon to, right? You're waiting for that Kyle train to kind of go through before moving on, because another great basketball player from Holton right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious with this whole mixtape thing. So you hit on a lot of things, but I'm curious, did you have any experience with it before, or was it just more so literally like, I'll figure it out. I got a Mac. I'll do iMovie and just edit some stuff up, or?
Well, I would say the only experience that I had of it was that I had very little downtime coaching in the Holton school system. I was also the assistant varsity and JV soccer coach for Tim Tweedy in Holton, and did some baseball too for a couple years. So sports, and sports can keep you busy in the county if you want it to. But I did get to make some film of Colleen Bouchard, Kyle's sister, a little bit, and I also did some highlights for the girls team when because they were very successful at the same time we were at Holton. So it was fun to cut that up for the girls team and kind of like have it ready for the banquet after they were winning gold balls at the end of the year. But no, I didn't really have any experience with Instagram at all, or making tapes.
How quickly did it blow up? I know you got a good size fan base now. How quickly did it take off once you started putting stuff up?
I would say right off the bat. But I also knew I'm a basketball junkie, so I knew all the kids, who they were. I knew their names, and either from box scores or MBR All-Star Showcase or coaching against them. So kind of what I did was just go around like adding all the kids that I was going to feature on Instagram, so they knew about it, and so they shared it, and it was a thing. And then Blue Wave asked me to come, film their AAU stuff. So I was on the road with them every weekend, which kind of got, made it a year-round thing. So
county guys are smart, because everything you just said is the same exact thing I did. Like, just there's the blueprint. You want to know how to do it. Find people that got followers. We shouldn't be giving away our secrets, but I'm right there with you. Yeah, so obviously it took out pretty quick, and you mentioned going on the road with Blue Wave and stuff like that. So it's not what you do full time, though, right? Like, this is just like a little side thing, right? You actually got a full time job.
Yeah, I work in school full time at in the Portland school system at East End Elementary. So, yeah.
What do you find more enjoyable? Do you find like you enjoy the summertime stuff, the AAU stuff, and the camp stuff, or do you like actually going to games? Like, you like the high school environment, rivalry games?
Man, I gotta respect the high school environment just because that's what I grew up with. I didn't grow up with any AAU. I definitely would have played, if anybody would have had me at the time. But so I love that atmosphere. But I also, as a videographer, you got to love the AU because I get like 3, 4, 5 games in a day. So that's a lot of highlights, and that's what you're kind of looking for when you're looking to make tapes of people. And you also kind of get camaraderie with the guys. You're going out to supper, you're staying in the hotels, you're traveling, you're telling stories, and you're seeing a bunch of the other talent that's out there, that the high major talent that's out there. And so I'm a basketball junkie. It doesn't matter. Like, I filmed the Noonan tournament last year. I loved that and put together a tape for them. I film for overtime and go to prep school games. I do these Ben Tier camps, and I love being in the gym, man. Love being in the gym.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you're a worker. Like, you like to grind. You like to get better. From being a coach, putting in the time, to being a player, getting better. I'm guessing with this craft too, it's all about getting better, right? So how have you gotten better? Has the production value gotten better? Are you learning new things? Like, are you watching the people like, okay, I'm gonna take this? Are you taking things from different people? Like it's a grind, and I'm guessing you're competitive with it too, right? Because I know I am. Like,
Um,
uh,
to a degree. I mean, I know what you're saying. I follow basically every like major content creator for videos that's out there for basketball and just other avenues that are doing some cool things with videos. But really, what it became for me was just putting together tapes for kids to show to college coaches.
yeah,
And college coaches don't care about all the flash. They don't care about like the slow mo and the long like the high five, like the cool high fives and handshakes and stuff like that. I don't mind it. I love a kid that's showing passion or like doing something different that mixes it up for me. But I I really became about putting together something that kids or AAU coaches or whoever could send to a college coach, or college coaches could watch it on whatever platform and say, and ask me questions about the kid. And so I wouldn't mind doing some of the fancy, like there are some just unbelievable creators out there for mixtapes. Like Loose Slam is one of my favorites. There's a guy named Sam with the Cam. There's a guy, Cool Mac, out of California that works with Sierra Canyon. I mean, some of these people just like they pull all-nighters. Like some on a 1 minute or a 30-second film people don't understand how much effort goes into that.
yeah.
Let alone just like the clips that I do. And no, it's I definitely want to take it to another level. I was just about to invest in a great camera and lens right before COVID hit, which was also the same time I shattered my leg and my ankle. So it's kind of a weird time. So I didn't miss any AAU because of COVID or my ankle and leg, but I also was because I figured I was going to be away traveling in other states all summer, and I wanted the best camera
Right.
to work with, as you say, upgrading your craft. But I just broke my leg and COVID hit, so we're here now, and so it may still be an investment down the road. But for right now, everything that you've seen has come on an iPhone or an iPad. So.
I like that right there. I'm just curious because it's like I said, like it's the hottest thing out. Like mixtapes are such a part of the culture now, and to be doing it here in Maine, like you're at the forefront of that. How many times you got kids DMing you like, "Hey, what do I got to do to get a TrophyMode mixtape?"
It's not that bad, honestly.
Yeah.
I know just because I know most of the kids, and they basically know that it's coming. Like I'm trying to serve everybody and try to put everybody on. And there are kids that ask for like an individual clip. Like, did you get that? Did you get that highlight? And they will hit me up immediately. Like before I'm even home, like in the car, I'm on the way home.
That's also part of the culture now, right?
Yeah. But man, people make this generation out to be something I don't feel that it is. I honestly get so much respect and so much thanks that I think is very sincere from this generation. I feel like they get a bad rap to a degree. I work in schools. I work in the 4th and 5th grade, but I also am with all these high school kids all the time. And I can honestly say that the negative interactions or like the asks instead of approaching it different, in a bad way, like have all been very positive, so.
Right. So busy right now with the top 30 camp just getting done, right? And you just saw some players uphand firsthand them at their craft. Yeah, you've been at this for a while now, having played, coached, worked with individual players. What's the biggest difference you've seen just since when you graduated high school? So we're talking like a 20-year window. And I've talked to Ben about this, just like blown away by like the skills package kids have nowadays. Like I remember like when kids started Euro step and it's like, wow, like this kid's got a Euro step. Like now everyone's got a Euro step and there's so many different tricks they got now. What's the biggest difference that you've seen from when you graduated to now in terms of like skill sets?
You know, I would say, you know, in the county, didn't have a lot of size like they have down here, but like there isn't a 6'5" kid that can't shoot now.
Yeah.
Like they all handle the ball in the perimeter. There's no player that is stuck in the post anymore that I've seen. When you speak about an Emily Archibald from Kennebunk, player of the year this year, she can stretch it out. She's, you know, probably the biggest, strongest girl, you know, in Maine right now. You got on the boys' side, you know, you've had your Matt Flemings, your Nick Fiorillos, who's now on scholarship at Vermont, and in this year's class, you've got guys like Dylan Griffin from Thornton Academy, and Evan Willey from Lake Region, that are scholarship prospects that are huge, and they're shooting from 23, 24 feet with ease. So I think that's the biggest difference. The other difference is, I think that that I've noticed is that just girls are doing everything that boys can do, you know, as far as skill wise.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do you think that girls still get stepped on? And I mean, I've had this conversation with a lot of people on the podcast. Just I don't understand why the girls don't get the same respect the guys do, but the girl, like we've been producing incredible female talent forever. And I think right now it's at an all-time high, but maybe not still getting the respect that they're due.
I think it is. I mean, I think that's just cultural in our country.
Right.
I don't think it's anything to do with Maine in general. I do think that like the boys are kind of like engaged with basketball as a thing, like on a broader scale, more so. Like the boys that I follow on social media that are into hoops all the time are always posting about hoops or NBA stuff or college stuff or like a mixtape or something. It's just part of like, and it's not, girls are basically, when they show it, like a lot of them, they're show up the hoop and they're ready to hoop. Like that's kind of their thing. And that there's a few outliers, but like it's not as much of, as far as like the projected culture is different from girls to guys, I guess. And so maybe that changes the buy-in from the spectator or something. But I, you know, there's like Anna DeWolf that you've had on, Mackenzie Holmes, you know, some of the girls that are out there this year, Jemima Motima, Amanda Kabatu, I'll go watch those. I'll pay to watch any of those girls play anytime.
Yeah. I think one thing we can both agree on, there's just a ton of talent on both sides right now, boys and girls, and you can see all of them up firsthand. So just got done with the girls' top 30 camp. So for those that maybe don't quite know or aren't following it as closely, who were some names to watch? Who kind of stood out from the weekend that you saw?
I don't know if it's out there yet, but Sarah Talon, who's headed to Maine, of course, that you've had on the podcast. She won most outstanding player of the camp.
Just heard that.
So I don't know if that's breaking news, but you know, I think everybody knows that was put out yesterday that she won the Queen of the Court, 5 straight buckets against some tough competition, and she's just got a go at you mentality. I mean, she's not going to back down from anybody. And every trip, and this is what I love to see as a competitor and as somebody that's filming or a fan, is just somebody that wants to go at their opponent all the time. And she, like, I feel like every trip she wants to go at people, and that's great to see. So her, Jemima Motima and Amanda Kabantu that I just mentioned. Jemima's going to Northeastern on a full scholarship. Amanda's going to Bentley on a full scholarship. Unbelievable athletes, unbelievable skill level, unbelievable competitors. Camille Clement that you've had on the podcast. Unbelievable shooter. She's going to Northeastern. Lizzie Gruber is an up-and-coming player. I think she's going to be a sophomore at Gardner this year. She's over 6 feet, blocks a lot of shots, great rebounder. The perimeter shots coming along for a big, can score either hand inside. There's a lot of good girls players. Some guards that impressed me. I liked Emily Streams from Bangor, the McLaughlin girl from Hamden. They were good, prototypical point guards. They're going to get the ball where it needs to go. Let's see, who else was there? There's some good talent there from the county. You had Macy Beals from Central Aroostook, Maddie Russell from Southern Aroostook.
Yep.
Got a couple Prescott girls, Anna Gendreau and Faith Schoberg from Prescott. There's a lot of talent there, and they all competed really well. So.
That's one thing I like about the Top 30 camp, and it's kind of like something you'd mentioned where, growing up in the county or Western Maine or down east, you hear about these names from Southern Maine. Southern Maine is where the hoops are. It's where the ball players are. And we hear these names, we don't get to see them. This Top 30 camp gets to throw them all in the mix, and they all get to go head to head. And not only do the girls from up north or from Eastern or Western Maine get to go measure up themselves against the girls from Southern Maine, but they get to also make a name for themselves. And it's good to see, like we talked about before, it's good to see what Ben's doing with the Top 30 camp and just giving everyone a chance to get that exposure, get their name out and competing from what it sounds like from what you were describing, just a really good competitive weekend all around.
Yeah. I think he brings in professional coaches. He had Mike Dunn in this year. He had Tyler Relf there and George Milo there, who are professional trained NBA players and WNBA players. And so he's bringing in these people that have the most expertise on the planet to talk to these Maine kids, and hopefully they soak it in. And just Maine kids, I think, are competitive, but Ben is really just like, he knows how to relate to kids, and he knows how to push them up a level, makes them want to do it even more. I think most of them are competitive or they wouldn't be good anyways, but he takes it up a notch. Just his personality, and just he gets people to buy into like making our state, like we're all doing it for our state and to make basketball a better product here. So.
Absolutely. And girls were this weekend, boys are next weekend. So I'm going to ask you some same questions here. Maybe some guys, you've been to a couple AAU tournaments this summer, so you've seen some of the guys in action. You followed them all year last year. Who are some guys, some names maybe look out for at the camp next weekend or going into next season? Who are some guys that you'll go out and make a bold statement to watch out for these guys?
Yeah, I don't have the list. I think I know most of the names that would have got an invite. I've seen some of the, who he's put out that's coming to the camp. But I would say Peyton Jones and Dylan Griffin from Thornton Academy, they were in the AA state game this year as juniors. They'll be back. That probably the best talent-wise tandem in the state going into next year. John Shea, who went to Edward Little, who won the state game this year, big man. Just Dylan and John are just loads to handle inside. You've got Andrew Suez from Bangor, 6'6", can handle the ball, shoot the ball, works with Matt McKenzie from Results, who does a phenomenal job with all of his clients that he works with.
I just want to shout out Andrew real quick. I had him on the pod. We recorded it this past week, so the Andrew podcast is coming soon. But that's nice. My guy right there now.
Andrew's my guy, man.
I'm a little upset with you though, because you put out the Andrew mixtape, right? You put out the saying that he's next up. I literally had a graphic ready to go for we got next Wednesday for Drew, and you put out the mix like the day after or the day before I was about to post. I was like, shit. Yeah. Now I gotta wait.
Honestly, honestly, that could happen anytime because I do mixtapes like when I can.
Yeah.
I just have time, and I probably have 300 mixtapes that need to be made. Like
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. I have probably 15,000 clips that haven't been put out yet.
Yeah.
So I mean it. So you may like
I'm
if
gonna
you
try to beat you to it.
think about putting out next up. You just get it out there as soon as possible.
I'm not holding on to it no more. I'm gonna put it out there right away. But yeah, Andrew's definitely up next, right?
Yeah, he's a great kid. He's a workaholic. He listens. I can tell when he works with Matt at Results that he adds stuff to his game all the time. I love what Matt does with kids. So, and he plays in a great program at Bangor right now, who I think pushes kids and really gets, when there's a kid that has a skill level, they put them in the right position to succeed. So shout out to the Bangor program right now. Got some good Husson blood in there right now. And Andrew, he's got a skill package that if he continues to grow, he's a for sure scholarship type kid. So
yeah.
Wyatt Hathaway at Levitt, one of the best scorers in the state, works really hard. There's so many kids, in the state of Maine that are just putting a lot of work in right now. So.
What are you most excited?
TJ Hennigan from Hamden too.
Yeah, another one.
He's a kid that's going to be a junior next year. Big kid. I think he's actually he played out of state last weekend for a team out of New Hampshire, the house we built, that has produced some great scholarship talent. And we just lost our two top-rated kids to prep schools, Dom Campbell and Brady Cummins, who now I'll have to travel to film them. I saw them 2 weekends ago playing in New Hampshire for Middlesex Magic for Coach Mike Crotty, who was Pat Connaughton's coach, who plays for the Milwaukee Bucks. So that just does another program, probably in the Northeast, as far as fundamentals, and doesn't work with maybe the top athletes, but gets the most out of the kids in their program and sends them to great academic basketball institutions.
And then you just put out that mix with that 7th grade team with that 8th grade team.
Oh my goodness!
Like an NBA team out there.
I'm not. We just talked about Sucobe, the Cooper Flag kid from Newport. His mom played for Maine. I think his dad played a little bit of college basketball as well. Big guy. This kid Cooper Flag, dunking, going into his 8th grade year. Now, hopefully he has an 8th grade season, but coached by Andy Bedard, former UMaine legend, also has a son on the team. Also the Husson football coach's kid is on the team, just new addition to the team, and some other great cerebral players. They played in the Nike Middle School League this past summer and did really well, made it to the championship game in their division. But this kid, I don't want to put too much on, too much pressure on, but this kid, if he continues to work, he's going to be one that people are going to travel from other towns to go see. Like, no doubt in my mind. So those are the kids we wait for. If you're a hoops junkie, you wait for those guys that you need to go see this kid play.
Yeah. So looking ahead, just based on the names you just said, Maine basketball heading in the right direction, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, I think, growing up, I think there were a lot of people that had a sustained run coaching, whether it was in the youth leagues or the middle school teams or the high school teams. You had a lot of legends. You had a lot of guys that had been around and knew the game. And now you're getting some of these former D1 athletes or D2, D3, what have you, and can pass that knowledge on to their kids.
Yeah.
And that's you have a Mackenzie Holmes is a situation like that, and there's many other players. Peyton Jones, who I mentioned from Thornton, his dad Ramon Jones played at UMaine. You have a lot more of as we go. through time, we have more female athletes and more male athletes who then can pass on that higher level of knowledge to their kids. And, you know, if their kids are want it and they're, you know, love the sport, it's only going to benefit them. And you're going to see just a higher caliber of athlete just because of the level of knowledge.
Yeah. I'm excited. I can't wait for this winter. When I had Andrew on, I was telling him, like, I live right here in Bangor, and I get Hamden, Brewer, and Bangor games all winter
Brewer's
long.
going to be tough too.
Brewer's going to be really good. So I can't wait for that. And then Bangor girls are going to be good. We got JC Christopher in the area. Just all kinds of really good basketball. So I can't wait for things to get back to normal, hopefully, and just be able to check that out this winter.
JC was another that had a good showing at it. Didn't mention her earlier, but she had a great showing this weekend as well.
So we talked about pushing the game forward, right? And just because we're in Maine doesn't mean we can't have things that other places have, whether it's mixtapes, podcasts, top 30 camps, trainers. We're getting there, right? So what else do we need? I mean, we got the mixtape game on lock now. We got all kinds of good stuff there. We got some podcasts coming out. Shout out to Mainly Basketball Podcast. They popped up too. So what else does Maine need? Who can we inspire? Who else can we get to kind of join this movement and keep pushing it forward?
Yeah, I mean, for one, I think the greatest thing that since I was young, that I've always wanted was more gyms, more gym availability. I think that will always be the number one thing in Maine, especially since we're a cold weather state, is just having access for kids to play. I mean, I train a couple kids here in Portland, and it is crazy trying to find gym time, even in Portland, which has probably the most gyms in the state within 15 minutes. One of the biggest things for Mark moving to Bangor when he was in leaving Holton was he wanted gym access. And at least in Bangor, he could use the UMaine Fieldhouse. He could use Husson during the summer. Yeah. Besides like the Big Red Summer League at Bangor, and just being able to get in the gym, man. And I think I hope soon that there is somebody or a group of people that can, find ways to build gyms that are accessible to our youth. All our youth. I'm not just talking about the top athletes or people that have trainers or whatever, that are accessible to all youth when they want to work on their game. And I know the driveway is a good place too. That's where I grew up playing. But I also feel like venues are huge for the development. And a lot of other states where they produce great athletes have those type of spaces in multiple of those in their areas. So that's the number one thing. Number two is just for the coaches not to get out of the game. And I know that it's harder probably than it's ever been. You got to think about your own finances and the time that you're putting in and your own family and all that stuff. And I don't have a family, so I can put right at the moment, so I can put in as much time as I want to, whether it's coaching or training or making mixtapes. But the people that have knowledge don't if you don't have to, find a way, at least find some way to stay in the game and keep giving that knowledge to our youth, because I think that when you just leave it up to just a parent that has to step up and do it, or when there's constant turnover and there's not like a hierarchy of people growing under. Like I learned so much working with Rob Moran. He came back to coaching after a few years away, and I wouldn't have been the coach that I was without the knowledge that he gave to me. So I think that'd be a huge second one. And third is just more passion from anybody that's doing it yourself. You clearly have the passion you didn't have to do this podcast. You don't have to, put it out weekly, and search out these kids or people to have them on. And it's clear that it's taking people like you to just keep the spotlight on kids and make them feel proud of their accomplishments and tell their stories and give them an outlet to do that, because that, I feel like a lot of times our youth, like, we look at them and judge them and are critical of them, but we don't always get their perspective. We're kind of like spectators, but we don't get their perspective. So.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's just finding ways to get back to the game. So, and there's different ways to do that. You know, it's like coaching is a huge commitment. And I knew that I always wanted to get back in it somehow and be part of it, but I don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of time to be out there coaching and being on the road and being on every weekend. But,
yeah,
you know, I can give back and I can be part of the game by being in my kitchen right now and just finding different creative ways to be involved. So that's good. Like, just challenging the people out there. There's different, you don't need a coach or you don't need to, you know, train. There's different ways to contribute and keep pushing it forward. So there you go. We're pushing out a challenge. Find a way to contribute and just keep pushing it forward is what it's all about.
You had Matt Rossignol on. Matt's a friend of mine. He actually, his son Andre played for me in AAU a little bit, not a lot, but Andre, we also went to the Harbor House tournament one year when Andre was in 8th grade, and Matt and Derek Thompson from Skank, who's a great coach, friend of mine who has produced some great athletes in his own right, with his wife, who was one of the best women's players in Maine history, Stephanie Carter Thompson. They were my assistant coaches. So like the level of knowledge that I was able to have to these young kids, the Griffin Jarretts, and the Justin Thompsons, and the Andre Rosignols, and Nolan Altivators, Jackson Mathers, kids that were you know, great athletes and grew up to do great things in their high school careers. But having guys like Matt, who's still in the game, Derek's still in the game, I believe. Just keeping those guys, you know, on the grind as long as we can, you know. So.
And also to the young folks, don't be afraid to reach out to these guys. Like, you know, the people that have come before you, like, they got knowledge to give off, and they were probably are just dying. They're probably just dying to be able to help out in some way or give you just one little piece of advice. So don't be afraid to tap these guys that come before you. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's all about moving it forward. Go back and talk to those folks that came before you, because it's just a wealth of knowledge, and everybody just wants to keep moving it forward. So that'd be one thing I echo too. Like, don't be afraid to reach out to those that came before you, because everybody's just trying to push it forward and just kind of pass off the information they know, right?
For sure. I mean, you know, guys like Lon Berthum, who I play with at the Bagshot Center, like, great guy, and he, you know, he was a scorer, I believe, in high school, but but his biggest thing is that he knows how to relate to kids. Yeah. He has a great relationship with all the girls that he has in his program, you know. So, you know, and he's going to bring those kids back and always keep them as part of his program. And I think, echoing what you just said, like, bring our youth back in and keep them involved, and try to be like a Greg Popovich, who has a coaching tree, you know, and so as many people as we can, you know, staying involved and helping push the game forward. Ben had Lexi Middlestat, Brooke Obar, Juliet Colby, Lishaw there today, either players that are going to college or already college players, yeah, helping out and staying involved with the girls of today's main game. So, you know, it's just I love seeing generational involvement in Maine hoops.
Yeah, I think it's going in the right direction. I think we're getting there. So it's good to see. It's good to be part of. Before we get up out of here, I always give my guests a chance to say their piece. So it could be maybe something we missed on, something you want to touch on, bold prediction maybe, whatever you want to do. I'm gonna give you the floor to say your last bit before we get up out of here.
I would just say that, you know, with everything that's going on in our country right now, you know, that I'm supportive of those that are trying to make change for social justice. That's one of the things that I'm focusing on right now in my life. Living in Portland, working with a population that has a lot of people that are from diverse backgrounds, that are people that may not feel particularly safe right now, and just, you know, helping to be a part of improving where our country and where people stand on some of those issues, you know, because those are the people that I work with on a daily basis, and just wanting everybody, you know, as somebody that grew up in the county without a lot of diversity. I think you probably had more diversity in Fort Kent than we did in our area, just because of the college,
Yeah.
You know, and the soccer program, especially there, that has done some amazing things. But just being able to open my eyes and being able to see that not everybody has the same situation as me, and that I can do my part to help make their lives easier and better and safer. So that's kind of what my focus has been on during this COVID time. I'm okay personally, you know, so looking out for other people, and I hope that everybody can do what they can do, whether it's little or small, you know, the littlest thing, just preaching kindness, you know, doing the things that maybe you already do for people, and just keep looking out for each other. So that's my piece, you know.
All right. I like it. That's the most deep last episode message or segment we've had right there. So that's good though. And I'm pushing the spot real quick before we get up out of here. MVP of the top 30 camp next week for the boys is going to be.
Ooh, oh man, you're gonna make me hurt some feelings like that.
Yeah.
Oh, MVP of the top 30 camp next week.
Now I'll give you mine afterwards.
Man, this is tough. I mean, I gotta go with my guy Peyton Jones. I think, you know, his game is rounding into form right now. I've seen him the last couple of weekends. He can score from 3 levels. He's got great burst and athleticism. I mean, I think, but here's the thing. It's going to be who's going to win it is going to be the person that competes the most over the weekend, because I know Ben and I know the other people that he's going to bring to camp and staff, and I know they're not going to vote for anybody that takes plays off. So, you know, for those of you that are listening that are going to camp next week, you want to bring it on the offensive end and take the defensive end off, or you want to be, you know, stand in the corner a little bit on offense. Like, they're going to be looking for whoever brings it. And Sarah brought it every play this weekend, so that's why she was the most outstanding player out of an outstanding group of girls. Like, it's going to be an outstanding group of boys next week. So I got to go with Peyton.
My pick is my guy. My pick is my guy we've had on the podcast, and I've been a fan ever since. I've only seen him play once. That's all it took. Cash McClure. That's my pick. That's my guy for MVP. I'm on the Cash train, big time. That's what I'm going.
Yeah, Cash is a great player. I was fortunate enough to be at the state game. I actually showed up at halftime to film, and then he really went off in the second half. Unfortunately, Caribou pulled it out. You know, unfortunately for him, not unfortunately for the county, but that Caribou managed to pull it out in the end. But now Cash is a great competitor, very high skill level, and as his body comes into, he's grown a tremendous amount just in the time I started watching him play. I mean, I saw him play in middle school. When I was at Farmington, I was actually reffing. When I was at Farmington, that's how I was involved with the game when I went back to school. And I actually reffed Cash's like a 7th grade game or something in Mount Blue. And I was like, this little guard's going to be tough. Yeah. And now he's, you know, clearly one of the top 5, in my opinion, top 5 players in the state.
Yeah.
We have now.
Yeah. And Ben
that's not a bad pick.
No, Ben told me too that he's gotten so much better over the summer, and like that's the guy to watch. That's what I'm going with. It's gonna be exciting. I'm gonna try to be there. Like I said, I'm gonna try to be there on Sunday. At least pop in and check it out for a little bit. So I'm excited. Love what you're doing. I've been a fan since day one of the stuff that you've been putting out. Glad I got to have you on. Even better, you're from the county. You know, us county guys, we always stick together. So. And we work hard, and we're going to continue to do so. So I know much more big things come from TrophyMode. And thanks again for coming on. This has been great.
Thanks so much for having me. obviously, like I told you before I came on, that I've listened to every one, soaked it all up, and I wish it. I think I told you this. I wish it was a daily pod, and I'd still go through them all. So and
Yeah.
I think we actually have enough people in Maine basketball history to kind of make that happen. If all the podcasts that come out can make that happen. So there's a lot of good basketball stories and legends out there to be had on your podcast and other ones. So.
When I started up, I was like, I don't know how long I can keep this going for, but now it's like I get anxiety, like, oh, I got to get this person. Like I line up like 500 at a time now, and I'm just trying to get through them because there's 5 more after that. So all kinds of great people to talk to, like you said, and it's just fun to be part of the whole movement right now and just pushing the game forward. So thank you once again for coming on, Matt McCluskey, aka TrophyMode. Go follow him on Instagram if you don't already do so. Putting out the best mixtapes out and about right now. So that's it for this week's episode of Big Time Hoops, the podcast. Make sure you're checking out previous episodes on Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play. Anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find this one. So check those out, and we'll see you next week with another Big Time episode. Big Time Hoops, the podcast. We'll see you.